Welcome back to the Scrappy Leader podcast. My name is Christy and I am your host. Today, we have the opportunity to meet with an amazing woman who I've had the privilege of knowing for several years now. Brynn Shader and I met after a study session for our human resource certification course. And we began our relationship literally in the stairwell of a university building. And since then, it has just grown and really blossomed. Brynn has been my sounding board for a lot of my journey. She has been my challenge master, if you will. She has no problem calling me out on my stuff and really pushing me to go further. She has been my unofficial mentor in many, many ways. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you all and share with you the amazing Brynn Shader, who is a business owner, a change craft speaker, and advisor, and really just a wonderful human being. So, welcome, Brynn.
So excited to be here. Thank you, Christy.
So, Brynn, I wanted to get us kind of kicked off. I would love to hear about your journey. Tell us how you got to where you are today.
Yes, it's been a windy, interesting, and wild ride so far. I think, when anyone ever asks me about my journey, I go all the way back to when I graduated from my master's program. And I went to school in Belgium, which was quite different. I was supposed to go to the Peace Corps after high school and then shifted course when I was living abroad. I started teaching English as a second language in the Czech Republic, and then decided to stay in Europe and go to grad school at a school that focused on international studies. And so my program was really cool. I studied how the movement of people changes the world. So from anthropological, psychological, sociological perspective of the migration of people. And so after that, I decided I wanted to come back to the US. And I struggled for a few years trying to find my footing, trying to figure out what I really wanted to do, which ended up not being law school, even though I spent $2,000 on a prep course and took the exam and, lost nights of sleep over it. That LSAT is hard.
Best laid plans.
Yeah. And I ended up, and I love to talk about this with young people who are starting their careers. If there's anyone listening, I actually got my first opportunity through what they used to call temp agencies. And now they're called staffing firms.
Oh, true.
Right. And so I was a temp brought in to build a Salesforce environment for a government entity in Maryland. I was living in DC at the time. And that really started my trajectory. I became an admin of Salesforce that got me into Bloomberg, which was really where I cut my teeth on the professional world and decided that I wanted to move into HR.
Okay, time out. Did you know anything about Salesforce when you took that job?
No, not a thing.
Talk about Scrappy Leader.
Talk about Scrappy. Yeah, so they put me in this admin role, and I just taught myself how to use Salesforce.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was awesome. And I have a knack for tech, and so I got really good really fast and ended up at Bloomberg doing Salesforce, and then the VP of sales, it was a startup division of Bloomberg, like the Bloomberg everyone knows of in New York. It was a startup in DC focused on translating government action into business implications.
Oh, interesting.
So it was very interesting. But this VP walked over to me with my huge personality and scrappy leadership, and he said, "I want you in sales." And
of course.
Yeah, and at the time I was like, ew, sales is gross, but I respected this man wholly and trusted him. And so I went into sales. And talk about, Scrappy, I was one of the first 10 employees hired for what is now a huge business under the Bloomberg umbrella. and we had no onboarding. We had no new employee orientation. And I found myself creating that stuff for my fellow sales associates we were hiring to give them a good employee experience. I didn't even know what that was at the time. Employee experience, quote unquote.
You were just looking out for your colleagues,
I was
helping
just looking
people
out
be
for my
successful.
colleagues. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so I realized that what I was doing was like under the HR umbrella. And I said, well, this is the work that fills my cup. This is what makes me feel like I'm really like pursuing my purpose on this planet. And
That's
so
awesome.
I decided to leave DC and simultaneously switch careers. So I moved to Colorado, and everyone who I talked to said, oh, if you want to get into HR, go and recruit. And so that's what I did. I learned how to recruit, and then realized that I loved it, and I was missing a big piece. I wanted to see and support the employees after I placed them. I didn't want to just place them and walk away. And
Right.
so I said, okay, well, what's that work? Okay, well, that work is talent development inside of an organization. So that's what I did.
Mhm.
I went to the University of Colorado. I was on the talent development team, but then along the way, they were implementing a new version of PeopleSoft. So that was my
And there
first.
you are with tech again.
And there we are with tech again. It always just kept following me, and I just said, okay, I'm listening. And so that really kicked off my the beginning of what wasn't even called change management at the time. There wasn't a term for it, but that's what I was doing. I was helping drive adoption across the HR community at CU, representing 40,000 employees at 4 different campuses.
Wow.
And I was traveling to the 4 different campuses and helping ease the discomfort of the HR professionals. Lots of them very, 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 very tenured, super resistant to change.
So you were representing the faculty as well.
No,
Oh, wow.
faculty, it was really, we were really focused on HR, learning
Okay,
this new tool.
okay, got it.
HR is the super users. And then we had an effort to roll it out to the rest of the employees of CU, which faculty are considered.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, that was tough. That was tough. Very tough, because a lot of these HR leaders had been there 10, 15 years using Taleo, and they, so that's really where I realized that there's a sales part of change. So I was pulling on that sales that I learned at Bloomberg, and I said, what's in it for them? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? And so, yeah, that really kicked off that kind of my focus on helping ease the discomfort of organizational change for leaders and then for the employees, so that organizations can maximize the use of change to really drive innovation, resilience, and create cultures of belonging.
And you have focused on HR pretty much ever since, haven't you?
Yeah, I took a stint at Deloitte, as you know, where I was part of the organizational transformation. What was it called? Market or whatever it was called.
Market offering. Yes.
Market offering. And during that time, I was exposed to helping drive digital transformation with functions outside of HR. So that was my first foray into, working with IT, which was fun, finance. And then after that, I helped. After that, I did an HR project, but then after that, I did some sales, customer service, and marketing. So I went back into doing a Salesforce transformation, and I realized how much I missed HR. So I went back to HR and did an HRIS. And now I've been doing supply chain for a bit, and that's been interesting. And all of these experiences have really shown me how much I love and really, really belong in HR. So I'm focusing my Scrappy leadership on within HR functions going forward.
That's awesome. So talk to us about, tell us kind of what that has all come together to mean for you in your life? I know you've got some really cool stuff happening.
Yeah. So, um, I part of my journey that I didn't even mention, was deciding to, uh, really leave the full-time mentality, of being an employee of an organization and really stepping into what does it mean to be a consultant. And I realized that I truly thrive in a consultant, um, dynamic
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I've been in roles before where I have so many ideas. I can sniff out problems like a Doberman pinscher. I just can see them everywhere. And there's so much opportunity. To me, I don't see them as problems all the time. Sometimes it's my optimism, you know, it's hard to be optimistic all the time, but most of the time I see problems as opportunities for transformation. And not even transformation. That word is so intense. Just like
It is
taking a
intense. Hmm.
step towards something just a little bit better. And so what I'm up to now is really building my Brynn Shader consulting business. Uh, Talk about scrappy. Oh my goodness. Being an entrepreneur is, it's
100% scrappy.
yeah, and I love that about it. And it's where I belong. And I finally got to a point years ago where I stopped fighting against the W-2 full-time world, trying to find my way. And I just said, okay, I think I really belong in the way my brain works, is I really belong, in this solopreneur world. And so I've been building this business, and I'm a speaker now. I'm building a speaking business, or have a speaking business that is, I'm excited to really bring into this new year, where I'm focusing on how I'm really focusing on change leadership. So how can leaders leverage inevitable change in their businesses,
Hmm.
shifting market dynamics, AI, the new administration here in the US. I mean, there's so much change. It's faster than it's ever been before. That's what I talk
Yes.
about this. And just giving them some tools that include mindset shifts, because in my mind everything starts with self.
It does.
There
It
there
totally
is no
does.
such thing as one reality. It's all how we see it. So
Hmm.
helping really empower leaders, and team members to seek change as opportunity for innovation and resilience and belonging, like I had said earlier. Those are kind of the three gifts that we can really unwrap if we take the time to be
Love
intentional.
that. I love that. Now I know that you've got at least one speaking gig coming up. Do you want to tell everybody where you're speaking next?
Yeah, so I've been the last year, I did a lot of speaking within the HR community. And because you can probably tell that's where like one of my biggest passions is. And so this year, I'm expanding to all leaders, and really, the lessons that I have learned, the tools that I have, sharpened by being scrappy. Those are all things that I'm so grateful to have a platform to share.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's my goal this year, is to share them with as many leaders who are willing to listen and open to the new
Hmm.
ideas. And so I'm speaking to some women, a group of women leadership in transportation that's coming up in
Ooh.
this month. And then I do have one upcoming annual HR event in Denver, where I'm talking about the 3 secrets revealed of the most strategic change leaders.
I love that. I
So
love
yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah, that's something that you and I have we talk about quite a bit in the sense that both of us work in change management, if you can actually call it that. And we both believe really strongly that change management should be a fundamental leadership tool. And so I'm so excited to see you taking this to the masses, if you will. So,
Yes.
Brynn, talk to us a little bit about how you keep yourself going with so much going on in your world. How do you take care of yourself?
Oh, yeah, that's such an important question, and something I talk about when I'm on stage, because as leaders, we can't take care of our people if we're not taking care of ourselves. And I think that like
Amen.
maybe 10 years ago, that was a novel idea. And I'm so excited that it's not novel anymore. Thank God we've
Yes.
gotten to a point, right, where I sound like a broken record, which is, I think, a beautiful thing. Um, Gen Z are talking about therapy. They're talking about like, it's like you're not cool if you're not in therapy, which
Amen.
oh my gosh, it's amazing. So I'm so excited for that generation. I remember I started going to therapy when I was in my teens because my parents were huge advocates of just learning about yourself, learning about
Hmm.
how my mind worked, why I was emotional, where it was coming from.
What you were
They really
feeling,
wanted,
even
yeah, what the feeling
being able
was.
to identify what was going on. Hmm.
Totally. And not just react, which was a lot of what was happening with my brother. We really got into it. And so they both started taking us to therapy. And I went kicking and screaming at first, but then I started to really appreciate it. And I've been in some type of counseling or therapy pretty much ever since. And so I just turned 41. So I would say that's about almost 30 years I've been in therapy. So that's one way that I take care of myself, a big way. Another way is fitness. Fitness is my outlet for managing my runaway brain sometimes,
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
neurodivergent brain, and it's a way to get to homeostasis. So I do CrossFit. I'm a long distance swimmer. I use the discomfort of sport also to stay close to the edges, the rough edges of change. It really helps me
Ooh.
kind of stay, you know, connected to what I'm talking about on the stage, so that
Hmm.
and when I'm talking to clients, like it's the same thing. It's you want to give up, you would, and what do you do in the
You're
face of that,
tired. It
right?
burns. You want to, I mean, I think all of us on some level
You
can relate
blame.
to. Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I'm a victim of this CrossFit class. Like, why did I even sign up? Like you coach, you're terrible. You're making me do this. It's the same thing that happens when we're in, as an employee. Like, you tell me as my leader that you're changing my the marketing tool that I use.
Yep.
I'm a victim of that, which
Hmm.
I think sometimes there's a space to be in that place, that's okay to feel powerless. Sometimes that's part of our experience and journey.
And sometimes we
But
need to grieve the loss of something,
exactly, the
and that's
Kubler-Ross
okay.
grief and loss curve, I think it's
Yep.
so relevant even to today. What a gift she gave us with that curve. It's a way to understand,
And isn't
what
it wild?
happens. I
Isn't
know.
it? So the Keebler-Ross curve was created as a
I know.
grief curve
Mhm.
for experiencing loss of a loved one. That's how it was created, and it is now
Mhm.
very, very commonly and almost more recognizably used as a change curve.
Mhm.
And that's so
My only
interesting to me. It's so similar.
my only quip with it is that and this is with any, like, people who hear me talk, I say this all the time. I'm framework agnostic, I'm model agnostic. Like, take all your
Hmm.
models and let's throw them on the table and see what makes the most sense. Um Culturally, based on, fit. And so, my only caveat with ProSci, with the ADCAR model, and within, and same thing with Kubler-Ross is they look almost to be linear. They look to be like you have
So true.
to get to this step, but oftentimes we fall all the way back. it's like the way when I've talked about Kubler-Ross with some of my clients, I kind of say it's like a roller coaster. You can, go up a track and then you fall down, and that's all part of it. And
It
that's
is.
okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love in one of your talks, you talked about change being a river, and and you were using it to kind of say you really can't manage change, which I thought
Yeah.
was a beautiful point. But also when you think about, the nonlinear nature of a river, it's got eddies, it's got, rip currents, it's got all of that going on. So there's, yes, for the most part, it's moving forward, but so is time. But it's got a lot of different curves and dip-de-doos throughout it as well.
Yeah, I love that, the eddies. I mean,
Mhm.
that's where you just need to get off that train and take a break and cry or whatever, before you move forward. The term that I have come up with, um, literally because I just didn't like anything out there, and you can't manage change, in my opinion, is change craft. Is this idea of being able to creatively craft a solution, in the same way there's like an artisanal baker, right, who has ingredients, and they use a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they have a vision somewhat of where they want to go. They're
Yep.
not completely stuck on it because they know that baking is an art, and
Yes.
people are an art. We are not a
Oh,
science. There's Yeah.
110%.
So
That is the number one challenge in any change is, I mean, you can control that technology because it's essentially ones and zeros at its fundamental levels, but people are humans at their fundamental levels with emotions and fears and anxieties and excitement and hopes and all of those things. Yeah, that's such a beautiful, I love that. Change craft. Very
yep.
cool.
Yep, I'm just about to publish my first ebook about it.
How
So,
exciting.
yeah, so
That
people have been asking me, where can I read more about it, because I just mention it in my talks. And so I finally sat my butt down, and I've started putting some pen to paper so people, can download it and read a little bit more.
oh, that is so phenomenal. So, what else are you having? What else do you have in store for 2025? I almost said 2024.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things this year is finding other scrappy leaders. I'm looking for real community. And so I think that whether people are leaders within an organization, or they're solopreneurs like myself, or they're students, or whatever it is, having a community of, for me, it's other women who I can really cry with, laugh with, go through all of the things with, um, and they're unbiased. I think that that's really helpful. So I'm fostering communities this year of
I love that.
entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, um, yeah, and also some travel, because my cousin's getting married in Korea. He's marrying a Korean woman, so I'm going to go to a traditional Korean wedding.
Oh,
That's going to be
wow.
super cool.
That is awesome. You love
Yeah,
to travel, though. That's
I
one of your
do.
ways. I always think of that as one of your ways of really kind of investing in yourself.
That is
So,
true. That's another book I'm writing about, the 32 countries I've traveled to alone as a solo female traveler, and
wow.
the stories and the triumphs and the despair and but all of it has led up to getting me to where I am emotionally, and as a leader today. It's from all of
And you're
those experiences.
and you're so resilient. You've gone, life has dealt you stuff. Incredibly resilient woman.
And it's funny because
I'll
I talk about this too a lot. I say oftentimes when um um in front of an audience, I say, I'm resilient. I'm also a masochist, right? Like I have purposely created really tough situations for myself, whether it's for whatever, I don't know. that's probably something I need to work on. But what that has given me is some opportunity to really hone resilience.
I love that. I love that. So, Brynn, I know that you are the ultimate scrappy leader. Has there ever been a time in your life where being scrappy has not served you or created challenges for you?
Yes. Yes, I think in some environments, in some situations, in some projects, depending on the audience, the stakeholders, being scrappy could show up as lazy, and it can show up as unskilled, right? And I think it's like, putting together, being scrappy with a new AI video generated kind of technology for a massive global all hands, for example. Not a great
Mhm.
idea. You know,
Yeah.
so I guess it's more of like, there's no situations where I think there's situations where being scrappy is the first step, but the output needs to be refined.
Absolutely.
Like the output shouldn't be scrappy. But, and also it's like, what does scrappy actually mean? I mean, are we talking about an adjective for deliverables? Probably not. We're talking about
Mm-mm.
like a mindset,
Yep, a mindset, a
behaviors.
leader's mindset. Mhm.
Yeah. And so I think, sometimes when I think of scrappy, I think of like GSD,
What is that?
which is get
Ah,
SHIT done.
thank you for not
This
saying that
GSD
out loud.
attitude.
Okay,
Yes.
I've never heard that before. So,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
my very
Just
first
just GSD it.
I love that.
Yeah.
My uncle, and I said this in my very first podcast, my uncle used to say, "Get her done." Good good Oklahoma
Yeah.
boy. Get her done.
Love it.
Mhm.
Yep. So, sometimes um being, there needs to be more time invested and more
Mhm.
refining and just more like intentionality
Mhm.
that sometimes a scrappy approach isn't really the best fit.
Totally hear you. Totally hear you. So, talk to me about we were having a conversation recently and you said some things that really inspired me and I wanted to see if you wouldn't, talk a little bit about it here. You were talking about, and I apologize because I'm totally surprising you with this. You were talking about looking forward and having kind of a forward vision in, what you're working on and kind of looking for that next opportunity or that next joy that you could experience. Could you talk a little bit more about that and kind of how you incorporate that into your life?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to possibly is a practice that I learned from Gabby Bernstein. She's an author and speaker. It's called gratitude in advance. Gratitude in advance.
Ooh,
I think that's what you're talking about. Where I
it
was,
is.
yeah. So it's such a beautiful practice. That really, she's so awesome in so many ways, and so wise, and so funny, and charming too. But she talks about this idea of, we all know it's important. Well, I feel like this concept of gratitude is also one of those things like therapy that used to be this like whatever gratitude, but now there's neuroscience, there's science to show what happens in the brain when we practice gratitude. um these really good yummy feel good chemicals are released in our brains, and it's really unbelievably impactful. But what she talks about in this little practice is visioning what you want to manifest in your life. Some people hate that word. My best friend hates that word. She thinks it's like hokey, pseudoscience, whatever. I get it. We all heard of The Secret. Some of us loved it. Some of us hated it.
Yep.
Some of us didn't read it on purpose. But whatever word you want to use, to me, looking forward for all the goals, all the things that I want to create for myself and my life and my family and my friends, it's like dropping into the feeling of when that will have already happened.
Oh,
And like truly feeling grateful for all of those things
in the
that
future. So
in the future.
recognizing that it's happened and okay. And then being with those feelings, envisioning what it will feel like once
Right.
that
So like I've
manifests.
created vision boards for the last 10 years, every year,
Mhm,
multiple times a
mhm.
year. I have a vision board. But this is the first time that I've ever really that she's opened my eyes to that's only the first step. The next step
Okay.
is looking at each component of a vision board, a vision book, or whatever, a journal. It doesn't, whatever it is, and just putting yourself in the emotional state of living that reality.
Wow. Wow. I know at the beginning of, gosh, no, this was several months ago, you challenged me, or you didn't challenge me. You asked me to read The Universe Has Your Back with you.
Yes.
Um, and I sincerely enjoyed that. But you've continued that practice, on with Gabby, and we'll
Yeah.
definitely link all of her information below in case anybody else is interested it out. Definitely been life changing for me as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Sometimes I'm like, okay. I mean, she's not perfect for me, but sometimes those authors and those leaders and those mentors who, yeah, you might not love every single thing they say, but it's like there's gold in the things that, like I tried listening to that book and I couldn't even handle her narration. I
Some
couldn't
things
listen to
work
her.
for us, some things don't.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. But now I'm doing this thing and she's great. So yeah,
that's awesome.
she
That is
talks so
awesome.
fast in the book.
You have to slow it down as opposed to speed it up, right? You can't listen to it 1.2, 1.5. You got to go
Yeah.
0.75.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, no. Oh no. I don't know how people do that anyway. That makes me feel like I'm spinning.
Yeah. Again, different strokes for different folks. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you bring that up because so often we listen to leaders, we listen to people talk, and some of it really works for us. Some of it resonates and just rings so true. And then some of it just misses the
And
mark.
that's okay.
It's okay. And I think
Yeah.
that that's part of the beauty of kind of being a scrappy leader. You can take what works and you can leave the rest and kind of craft
Yes.
your own, create your own recipe for you
I
that
love that.
works. So
Yeah, there's
very cool.
another book that I just want to mention real quick and you can link it. Because in addition to Gabby's program, I'm also doing Silk and Sonder, which for anyone, particularly women out there, it's like the most incredible monthly journal thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm so grateful that I found, her name is Meha Argawal. And, and I mentioned that because I've learned so many unbelievable resources from that woman in this journal because she does weekly ritual or daily rituals. But one of them is called, The Art of Stealing.
Say more.
And so what you're saying about the scrappy leader thing is like, try something, maybe it doesn't work, try something that you heard. This book is all about how the creative people, leaders in business, artists, everything that has stood out in the past, all those people we know, we can name,
Hmm.
they all stole, quote unquote, from other people. And it's not stealing. It's like, how do we shift our mindset into we're taking something and putting our
Spin on it. Our
spin on
paradigm
it.
shift. Yeah. Yep. That's so true. And it's funny that you say that. I used to, when I was working on my doctoral degree, we had a leadership class, and literally we went through, I can't even tell you how many leaders we went through. We covered most of the leadership theories that are out there. And what it taught me is that, it's just different perspectives on the same fundamental
Yes.
elements. And it doesn't
Yes.
mean they're bad. They just are being designed. And so each of them fit a unique group of people. Some are going to resonate with some people, some won't. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yep. Yep.
So we all can
Yep.
find something that fits. We don't have to stick with, one size fits all, which is a gift, quite
Yeah. And if
frankly.
we have as scrappy leaders a new idea, don't shoot yourself down saying, oh, that's already been done, or, oh, that's
No,
like, just have
put
faith
your
that
spin
you
on it.
put your
Yeah.
spin on it.
Yep. Bring your energy, your focus, your intentions to whatever it is you're working on. So, Brynn, I wanted to ask you, what advice do you wish you had received or that you would just like to give to other people that are in the middle of their journey and trying to figure out where to go, trying to figure out what to do? What have
Yeah.
been your lessons learned?
Yeah. I used to have a business called Jungle Gym Career Services
Ooh, that's a cute name.
because it's a jungle gym, not a career ladder, right? The ladder's out. The jungle gym's in. You can go sideways and down and up and backwards.
I love
And I
it.
remember, yeah, I remember like that was one of the key paradigm shifts that a lot of my clients, and still to this day, I talk about, in that I've seen people really respond to, which is sometimes the next direction isn't forward. Sometimes it's
Yep.
backwards.
Yep.
And sometimes you move down and not up. And that's okay. But the critical, the tipping point, the make or break that I have talked, that it will be on my tombstone, pretty much, will be know what it is that you want. And you would be so surprised at how many times leaders have never really sat down and thought about that. Or they've taken a minute to think about it, but then said, oh, well, that's silly. I can't have that. I can't feel fulfillment, joy, and have a rewarding career. Or I can't make the money that I really think that I deserve and that I'm worthy of. And so the first thing, and the thing that I would have all my clients do, no matter what they really wanted to get out of our work together, was write down what you want and be very, very specific about it. And then the second step is, what are your non-negotiables? And
Setting boundaries.
those are the things you put up to keep yourself in check and hold yourself accountable. You put them in your bathroom, you put them on your refrigerator, and they help guide your decision making as your
So
North
true.
Stars.
So true. It's so interesting. I think that we overlook, I mean, we talk about all the nice, what do you want? Where do you want to be? But we very rarely, I don't think enough anyway, talk about setting boundaries. And I know that for me, that's been a huge challenge.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
not very good at setting boundaries.
That is a really good piece of advice, I think. And I'm sure you'll continue talking about this in future episodes. But boundaries to me are, I mean, especially in personal life, but at work, everything. It is how I maintain my mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
And you're one of the best. You set boundaries and hold them better than most people I know. It's one of the things I admire about you.
I try, and I give myself grace when I fall.
Yep.
But knowing what those boundaries are, I think just brings so much more clarity And so I would encourage folks to think about what it is that they want. What are their boundaries? What are their core values? That's another one that I know you've heard me talk about.
Yeah,
What
you
really,
asked
really
me to
matters.
do. So we sat down
Yeah.
several months ago and actually did our goals for 2025 together. And one of the things that you asked me to do before we launched into that was to actually go through a values exercise, which was really enlightening. When I take a step back and look at it, everything was, I probably could have identified it, but it made a huge difference to actually go through it and say, okay, this is really what I value and where I want to go with things. So
Yeah.
that was very powerful for me. Highly
Yeah.
recommend.
If folks want to Google, Brene Brown has a really nice, it's very simple. I have one on my website, or that will be on my website, a core values exercise, or just look up Google list of core values and just literally spend time honing them down to maybe 3 or 5.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then
Highly
also have
recommend.
those stuck up everywhere.
Yes. And align everything with that you do with those core
Yep.
values. Make sure everything is constantly in alignment. So,
Because if things are in conflict in your life, there is 100% a core value that is not being met.
yep. So true. So true.
Yeah. And then
Brynn,
I guess the one other thing before we close that I would offer, that I would advise is, take care of yourself
agreed.
no matter what. I
You
mean,
only
it's
get one
so
life,
simple, but yeah.
but so hard. It's so hard. It's kind of going back
Yeah.
to those boundaries, really making sure that that is one of those boundaries that you can actually take care of yourself.
Yep.
So,
And I think some people, sometimes it takes a complete breakdown for them to
mhm,
really get it. And that's the journey. I mean, I had
mhm.
that experience. Sometimes we need to feel pain before we change.
Yep, that is very true. Hopefully, it's not too big of a pain, so you're not
Yes.
in a bad place. But Brynn, we are at time. Thank you so, so much for joining me today. I know that you were a complete inspiration to me. I love talking with you. I love ideating with you. And you have been, yeah, just kind of my joy for quite some time. Ever since we had that side conversation in a stairwell after a study group. Um, yeah, I've sincerely enjoyed walking through life with you. So
Oh gosh, me too. Thank you for having me on your new podcast that I'm so excited about. It's going to
thank you.
be, I feel blessed.
Oh, so do I. Getting to share you and all of these amazing people that have entered my life. I feel blessed. You are an amazing human being. Thank you again, Brynn. And why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? And we'll link all of your contact information in the show notes as well. But tell people where they can
Yeah.
find you.
They can just go to my LinkedIn. They can find me on LinkedIn. Brynn Shader, BrynnShader, and then my website, brynnshader.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brynn. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you,
Really,
Christy.
really appreciate you.